6 weeks ago, we heard that Anthropic had developed a model called Mythos, and they said it was too dangerous to release. 2 days ago, they released a new model, one of the most powerful AI models ever made, and they named it Fable 5. So, what changed? Should we be excited or worried? Let's dig in. Welcome to a new episode of the Digital Edge podcast, where we are going to talk about the latest release from Anthropic. Maybe let's start with Mythos. So, Mythos is an LLM that was developed by Anthropic specifically to find software vulnerabilities. And it became public at the end of March through a leak. So it was not an official release, and Anthropic had not planned to announce it that way. But in April, they decided to release it to a small number of partners because they had some concern about the fact that Mythos could end up in the wrong hands.
Yeah, and I think that was an interesting approach that Anthropic took. Right, they called it Project Glasswing, and that initiative had, like you said, it was actually 150 or so organizations scanning code bases. Right, so a software source code of software that's in open source and commercial products to determine whether there are security flaws in those products. and and what it turned out to be, that it identified a huge number, like in the thousands, of highly critical software vulnerabilities. And this is where the concern came from about the power of the software, right? So if you had um, an entity that was interested in taking advantage of that, right, you could effectively go and hack countless systems on their vulnerabilities. And so
Yeah.
this is why Anthropic said, hey, this is so powerful in this context that they would not want to release this to the general public as they usually do with their models.
And what was interesting is that, some US federal agencies had started to phase out the use of Claude because Anthropic refused to remove some, prohibition for mass domestic surveillance and autonomous weapons. But when they saw the power of Mythos, like the NSA, for example, they wanted to use it, and even the Chinese government requested to have access to Mythos, although that was not granted. So that it must be so powerful that even governments are fighting over access to that new technology.
Yeah, I mean
And then,
yeah, it's it's almost like you can look at it as weaponry to get an advantage over other nations, right?
of
In
course,
geopolitical topics, right? It's very fascinating.
so that was Mythos, and now we have Fable 5. So what happened?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I think it, like you said, it did come as a bit of a surprise that this model is all of a sudden available. But Anthropic was very clear that, and I think also by changing the name of the model for the public release, that it was not exactly the same as Mythos, the mythical model that had all these capabilities. And so what Anthropic did is they kind of handcuffed the Fable model a little bit, that it declines what they determine as risky requests. For example, in cybersecurity space, bio or chemistry topics, right, where again a bad actor could take advantage of knowledge to do something nefarious with it, right? And so what you basically get then with Fable is a safer release of a model for the general public. And what you still see, right, even though it has, again, doesn't have some of these safety critical topics that it won't support, in areas like in software development, it's far ahead of the competition now in terms of code generation or refactoring existing code bases, which again should level up software development even further. And that's an area where AI models have been typically very strong already.
Hmm. So 2 months ago, that LLM was too dangerous, and now it's fine for everyone. So, is it really the model that has changed, or is it the business pressure? You mentioned about some guardrails to the model, but are they even safe and sufficient? So it's very. We can have questions about, was it a safety decision or a commercial decision that was made by Anthropic?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think the competitive pressure is really high right now because OpenAI and Anthropic are facing IPO stages, right? And I think staying ahead of the competition to ensure that they release the best product is a way to maintain that momentum that they have towards that commercial milestone. And again, right? I mean, if the competition were to pick up their use of the model, and we've seen that in the past, right? In past episodes, we talked about how quickly ChatGPT, the leader in AI chatbots, lost a huge number of users instantly once Claude was released that had some more capabilities, right? So I think they just probably decided that they can't hold back uh, in terms of capabilities with what they had, but chose to limit the capabilities to presumably with these guardrails keep it safe and not have it be abused.
Yeah. But still, I mean, I'm a bit concerned. I have to say that, in only, 6 or 8 weeks, what was considered a very, dangerous and even lethal model is now safe to be put in everybody's hands. And you mentioned that there is a classifier to detect what can be released and whatnot. But who even built that classifier? Is it reliable? Is it auditable? And how long is this going to be robust enough that that it's safe?
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen in digital transformation for many years is that as you said, it's moving fast, trying to stay ahead of the competition and fix it later. But sometimes, late, especially with this type of tool, later it might be too late, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, potentially it could also been a fantastic marketing ploy along the way, right? I mean, you never know what companies are doing with regards to the way that they develop and release products. But when the leak of Mythos came out, right? I mean, it caused a bit of an uproar already at the time, and it's right. This sparked a lot of interest in what's possible and what should or should not be done. So with this momentum, just a few weeks later, then right, you build a lot more interest in people to actually switch to that new model as a result, right? Because everybody wants to see if that was real or how good it really is, right?
Yeah.
So maybe there's a
But
little bit of
yeah,
marketing work in there as well.
I think we already had that discussion as well. I think it's not so much about the technology, but it's really about governance and
Hmm.
and having controls and putting that amazing technology to the good use, and trying to keep it away from evil. But now, if we move to what does it mean for digital leaders, CIOs, and with this new Fable 5 available, what are really the opportunities from a business point of view? So obviously, this is about software engineering and development. So probably it means safer applications. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a really good question. You know, when I was thinking about the topic for today, I was kind of reflecting on what I've seen online from the people that develop software and are heavy users of AI tools. And especially in the past few weeks, right, a lot of users and a lot of dialogue online has centered around the cost of AI usage, right? Where all of a sudden, companies are surprised about how much they're spending, and maybe that was not so clear early on, right? Where we were like, hey, everybody run on the AI train and use it as much as you can, to like, oh, there's actually a bill that comes from the providers at the end of the day, right? And the fascinating thing that was in the last 2 days, the people that jumped on it early, they said that with very minimal interactions, their allowance was consumed already, right?
Yeah,
So I think it's a balance, right? We're getting into this traditional technology benefit pattern of like cost and value, right? And I
yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
the takeaway is that, hey, this is something that should be pretty awesome to use, but it comes at a cost,
So
right?
maybe
And
Fable is a solution to be more effective in terms of software engineering and reducing that cost. That could be an opportunity.
exactly. It could very well be, right. Software has typically been expensive to develop, and right, with better tools and better AI, now the cost is coming down, and we're
Yeah.
seeing like more companies that just say, hey, instead of buying a general purpose piece of software or subscription, they just build their own and make it fit their own personal internal needs, right? So I think this will continue to grow as we go, with the consideration of this cost, right? Again, it's
Mhm.
not going to be free to use Fable
Yeah.
or anything else that comes after it.
So for the sector that I know well, which is financial services and insurance, there has already been some studies that Fable 5 has the highest score of any model on senior level
Mhm.
reasoning, document reasoning, chart interpretation. So probably also some use case and new development in at least in that industry and probably in others. So yeah, that could be good output for that new technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the coming days and weeks, we'll see a lot more use cases, right, and experience as people work with Fable, determine limitation. But from what it looks like, from what I can tell, is early, is that it's a lot more autonomous, right? It can take on a lot bigger
Yeah.
tasks and work on its own for a lot longer, for also good results, right? So very, very interesting time again as we go super fast here through these iterations of AI development.
Yeah. So maybe just to wrap up, I think that was very interesting to see that Mythos was the AI that the world was not allowed to have. And Fable 5 is now the new answer from Anthropic. It's probably as powerful, but with some, safety controls, some guardrails that we hope are strong enough to make a good use of this tool. You mentioned, about the timing, the IPO, the commercial pressure that must have been also some, elements in that new trend. But I think it's, as you said, it's really fascinating to see how fast this is all moving.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yeah, and it's not the end of it either, right? There's more to come, right? The it's just the pace is incredible of the advancement, right? And yeah, looking forward to see where this leads us, right? And what this means. And as you mentioned, with the governance of it, right? Even who should be deciding what is allowed and what isn't allowed, right? So Anthropic, with its entities that it's worked with, probably, I mean, they made the determine more or less autonomously, right? Or say, hey, we are allowing this but not allowing that. And I think that
Yeah,
also raises some questions about who can or should be deciding what these models should be capable of. So yeah,
absolutely. Thank
interesting
you,
on the
Dominic.
Mythos.
Thank you so much for the discussion. You can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, and subscribe to continue our discussions.
Thank you, Francois. Thanks everyone for watching. See you in the next episode.